Okay, I was already recording a video, but I got rid of that one. It was very long and unnecessary. Basically, I counted the number of imperative statements in the different libraries with my reactive implementations, and StateAdapt had 4, NgRx Component Store had 4, RxJS had 4, ELF had 4, Okita had 10, NgRx Store had 7, and NGXS had 11. With NGXS, the problem was actions and how they couldn't be dispatched from the template. So you had an imperative statement calling a method on the component, and then the imperative dispatching of the action. That was one of the things. With Akita, I couldn't have that nice syntax of wrapping or connecting the source observable to the state change inside the class. And then I started looking at that more, and I decided, yeah, those aren't imperative statements because the class is one thing. It is where the state is held. So I decided, it's similar enough to StateAdapt. And StateAdapt, it's self-descriptive. And so if it's part of a class, okay, that counts. But then I realized, you know what? It wouldn't be that hard to make the syntax similar. So I came up with this. This is unrelated. I came up with this. Look at this. I made a method called react. So the store will react to these observables in this manner. So it'll set state when the observable emits. And then I haven't applied it to higher complexity yet, but it'll be very similar. There's only one line of code. You can't refer to this in super. So the way I implemented it is a little more complex than I thought it'd be. It took a lot of time. That's why I'm up really late right now. And that's why the other video was so long. I was meandering all over the place. And then at one point, I thought I pressed pause, but I didn't. And then that made the video way longer. And that would have been really unpleasant to watch. So even more unpleasant than this. But I made this thing, reactive store. This is where I implemented it. This was unfortunate. I wanted to get away from this, but I just literally copied the signature that the overloads that component store had. I wish I didn't have to do that, but the main stuff is here. And then in select, wrapping it in a using. Because at any selector you define in the NgRx component store could be used directly. So I had to wrap all of them in using. And this actually isn't different from the way I did things always in NgRx. So I'm not worried. It's all right. It is totally fine. Yeah, it's super simple. It just passes. It's just like returning a function and then subscribing to this, but then there's a share on it, so it really makes no difference. Anyway, so yeah, I use this trick where when you do React, it does .next on this behavior subject. It has to be a behavior subject because the result from select gets called before React does. But subscription happens after both. So you have to use a behavior subject so that when you push onto this, it stays there. And you need to, whether even when the selectors haven't been subscribed to yet. And then you need it to be behavior subject and not just a regular property because select runs first. So it'll be undefined when you try to define that. So I did that, and I just had to do a switch all on that, which is used inside select. So basically, everything that you pass into this will be subscribed to, and this will be the state change that will happen because of it. And this reduced some of the lines of code. So I'm keeping track, and NgRx component store I didn't plan on doing this before, but I'm happy that I did. Each of these probably deserves their own article. Anyway, so it went from 129 lines of code to 117. These two files. Okay. So this one didn't change at all. This changed. So instead of that multi-line thing, and I defined the observable outside of the store, and I have yet to propagate this change. This is how it looked before. So this will be great because here's a cool thing. Shoot, actually. Well, so yeah, this is the cool thing. Everything you pass into this object will get subscribed to by every selector. It'll be shared, so it's only one subscription, but so I don't need to create this weird dummy listen to this thing. I don't need to do that. So that will go away too. All this will probably go away. Well, blackout probably will stay. Yeah, it'll stay. But anyway, so then I was like, wait a sec. I could also do something like this for NgRx. Can't do it for Akita because they are separate. The stores are separate. Unless, see, this is how I got into the NgRx thing. Unless, what if I created a utility that can be used in the component in Akita? So when you pass, so you have stores here, and you could, oh, I did it here too. The use thing. I could change that to, I could rechange that to React. No, I can't. It can't be defined as a method. But maybe what I could do, hey, this isn't too dissimilar from NgRx. This is actually really similar. But I'd pass the store first, and then the query next, and then the map from observable to state change. I'll show you what I did for NgRx. These are actions. These are selectors. So this would, in Akita, this would be the store. This would be the query. And here's the state change object. This isn't interesting, so I'll show you component. So these are just the pure observables. This is how I did it in state adapt. Just define them by themselves, except I annotated them as a source, as an action, I guess. And then you plug it in here. So it's different from state adapt, and I made a note in my, I called it create reactive store. Here. Yeah, create reactive store. I just called it store, and now the component just interfaces with that. I didn't know what to call it. I called it cell for a bit. I thought of calling it shelf because shelf is like inside a store. I thought of calling it like connection because it's like connecting a bunch of things. You still don't fully know what it's doing, so I'm going to show you that first. But I called it create reactive store, and it's different from state adapt. In state adapt, each source can cause multiple state changes, but in NgRx, each source is represented one-to-one by an action. So all it is a convenience. It's an alternative way of doing like the using thing that I was doing before. So it's not really reactive still. It's still imperative. It's just shorthand. It's just syntactic sugar. So, I mean, I want to use this on every NgRx project in the future. This is just clean. And here's what it does. It does what you'd expect it to do. All the actions, they get remapped as the thing that actually dispatches the action. So it's not the action creator anymore. It's actually dispatching here. And then selectors, they will get mapped to the $ syntax. So it expects it to start with select, and then it does lowercase right after that word, and it adds a $ at the end. And that becomes the observable, like the selection of the state that uses the selector of the name that it came from. Okay. So that just becomes available on this object. And then, but it doesn't just map it to the selection. It also, it adds all, so each pair of these gets converted into an observable that dispatches right here. So for each action name and sources, push, for some reason StackBlitz wasn't letting me do object.entries, but it doesn't matter. I think this is slightly more performant. I don't remember. But anyway, whenever I create some like really general utility, I've been sort of doing imperative stuff now because I looked inside the source code of Redux and NgRx and saw that they were doing that for their entity adapters. So anyway, so I push on the new observable, and what this observable does is it takes that observable you passed in, and it adds I still call it cell in here. But anyway, so this is the function that actually dispatches, because that's what I did up here, create action dispatchers. So what will happen is every time that source observable emits, it'll dispatch the action. And that becomes one of the required sources. And so then I merge these and I share that top level thing. And this gets used in each selector observable. So yeah, I like it a lot. All it takes is one thing to subscribe. And now it's going to be listening to and activating like any of these. Okay, so it's somewhat similar to state adapt, how state adapt works. The syntax is pretty similar. Except the reducer defines the initial state and the path. So that part's missing. So it's like the adapters, or the adapter is split into two here. This isn't really the action, it's more like the event name, but it kind of corresponds to the state changes. So this is kind of like the adapter, but it's different. But anyway, so that actually didn't even take very long. It took a bit to make, maybe an hour. And I was just thinking, I think I could probably do this for NgXS too, because one of the things I did was, it's so convenient to pass selectors in like this. I changed the way I imported it. So now I import it like this, and I separated them out in a separate folder. Anyway, so what are the results? For NgRx store, since it changes the way you can use it in here, it minimized this. So I was able to reduce lines of code here by 2. So NgRx went from 55 to 53 on this one. It went from 118 to 105 on the next level of complexity. And then on this one, where the one I did it for, it went from 170 to 133. So that's a big deal. State adapt is at 77 at that point. But still, 133, that's like halfway almost to where state adapt is. So, I mean, this is pretty cool. It's still not totally reactive. I mean, this will count as an imperative line of code because it's modifying something that's somewhere else, anywhere else. It could be anywhere else, but it's just dispatching this action, and then reducers are listening to it. So, and I'm like questioning myself now about that. It's not really imperative because it's not changing anything directly. It's kind of saying this is an event. But I'm going to count it as imperative because the place that listens to it doesn't have this as part of it. This should be part of the definition of the actions. So honestly, if I could create the actions as part of this, that would be better. And then in the reducer, refer to this, then I would say that that's reactive. But this happens to be like they're referring to the same thing. This is firing the thing. Yeah, it's, I don't know, it feels a lot better, but it is affecting something somewhere else. Like the definition of state, well, it is referring to the action, but you go to the action and it's just, that's a dead end there. Oh no. Dang it. I pressed back because in VS Code I have back set to control dash, which goes to the previous one. But anyway, I think I saved it anyway. It would have stopped me, I hope. Anyway, so the reducer, it's referring to a dead end. Whereas in state adapt, where the state lives is directly referring to the thing that holds those values. So, yeah, I will say that yeah, of course it's imperative. It's not declarative, because it's kind of the same as saying like defining the action here and then in the component referring to the action defined here and saying, here you go. It's like the direction, the arrow of direction. It's imperative with this. Yeah, the initial dispatch is imperative. Yes, of course. Initial dispatch is imperative. Yep. Because you could have neglected to make this connection. Well, oops, down component. You could have neglected to make this connection, and then it would be wrong. So it's like neglecting to dispatch something. But yeah, with here it's clear as day. It's clear as day that it's very clear. Oh, it's late. It's time for me to stop. Yeah, this is self-contained. It's definitely declarative. And man, I wish everybody was writing state management like this. It's so smooth. The debug path, the initial state, the pattern, the source, the main source. And oh man, it's so nice. I mean, the pattern, this is how simple it could be. And then over here we have 5 files. And it's like, yeah, scattered. Yeah, but still, huge improvement. So I was thinking about NgXS. And with NgXS, I was lamenting when I made that video that they use classes for actions, and if they had only used this action group thingy that NgRx uses, then I could refer to the thing by string. So I could have string on one side and the observable on the other side. Well, look at this. Exporting selectors, importing selectors. So I could import all the actions in NgXS and create a similar map. It would be, dang it, what would it be? Well, actions here, and then the string here. that could work. So I think I'm going to try that. I'm doing a lot of work. This is crazy. But I'm going to write a bunch of articles. So what I have is observable sources. I changed this and above for NgRx and for component store. Except with component store, it didn't matter. So yes, everything up here and above is up to date. And with NgRx, everything here and above is up to date. So what I need to do is I need to apply that same, copy that same version over to the NgRx component store, or to the other two class-based things. And then I need to copy the other thing, this approach. I need to copy this over to NGXS and Akita. And then, yeah, I can't, I'd have to do this 3 times, one for each, which is kind of okay. It's kind of okay. I think I'll just call it favorite, disliked, and neutral. And I could have it like react. It would decrease. Would it decrease? No, it wouldn't really decrease the total number of anything. Anyway, things to do. I can do all those things. And yeah, now that I figured it out, I don't think it'll be too hard to translate to other things. So yeah, this has turned out to be quite an ambitious thing, but I want more people to code reactively. So hopefully this will help. They don't have to move over to state adapt, which isn't released yet, 1.0. But this could help people. So yeah, I'm extremely all I want is for people to code more reactively. That's all I want. When I go into Codebase, I would rather see even this than what currently I see. And, even this is a simple example, so it's not that great, but I could show you a real project, but I'd rather see things that are self-contained, like that are actually accurate in their declaration, like what they are and what they depend on, and don't just leave it to anything to change them. It's so much easier to understand what's going on. And debugging, like I used to think it was harder to debug reactive code, but now I think it's easier because you just look at the thing that's wrong. You don't have to follow the entire chain of events. Just look at the thing that's wrong and figure out why it's declared wrong. And then you can look at what it depends on, look at the logic, and be like, okay, it should change like this when this happens. And so you can follow it upstream and see why that thing's declared wrong. So I think it's just better all around. All right, that's it for today's video. I am getting a new phone tomorrow, so I'm excited to go to bed, even though I'm up super late. All right, well, thanks for watching, and this is a lot of work. All right, let me know if you have any thoughts, any ideas, what you think I should call this. Should I call this a store or a cell or some other thing? Hub, I thought, because it's like where a lot of things meet. I don't know. I'm not sure what to name it. Store for now. So, all right. See ya.